Good morning everyone, and welcome. I'm Andrew Aguinobi, the Interim President of the University of Connecticut and the CEO of UConn Health. I want to welcome everyone to this beautiful innovation partnership building here at UConn Tech Park. It's my absolute honor to welcome Governor Lamont and all of our distinguished guests today. I really want to say a big thank you to Governor Lamont. And we also have the Lieutenant Governor here as well, Susan Weissowitz. And I want to just thank the state, Governor Lamont, the General Assembly, for all of the amazing support that they have given to University of Connecticut, not just in the last session, but over the many years that have allowed us to be in this type of building that we're in today, which we learned a little bit about in terms of how amazing it is and the work that it does in terms of both research, industry collaboration, and innovation. I also just want to say a special thanks to Governor Lamont. I don't know how he does it with his schedule to make time for these important events. I think he has some secret cloning lab somewhere, and I wish we had access to it. But I do want to really thank you so much, Governor, for being here. You only need to glance at the news to see that cybersecurity is not an abstract concern, and it's not limited to the protection of personal data. Criminals have extorted millions of dollars from U.S. companies in recent months, and cyber attacks have affected everything from the delivery of jet fuel to the beef industry. As the home of the Connecticut Cybersecurity Center, this is a particularly appropriate location for today's event. This is where UConn researchers, in collaboration with industry partners, work on projects ranging from protecting financial institutions to safeguarding elections here in Connecticut. It is a place of cutting edge into everything from cryptography to machine learning to biometrics, and much, much more. This is an area of critical importance to Connecticut and the nation, and that importance will only continue to grow. As a public university, UConn has a vital role to play in the innovation and development of new methods of detection, protection, and recovery in the cybersecurity field. On behalf of the entire university, it's an honor to serve as the host of today's event and to offer some insight into how we are working to enhance Connecticut's cybersecurity infrastructure. Again, I want to extend my thanks to Governor Lamont for his leadership in this critical area. And I'm really looking forward to the other speakers. Again, Lieutenant Governor Susan Weissowitz that we have here, but also all of the other speakers that you're going to hear from today. And I'll start by introducing the Mayor of Mansfield, which is a partner city. It's really a town that we rely on, that we collaborate with, and that we have great mutual sort of aspirations together. So I want to thank her for her leadership and welcome the Mayor, Tony Moran, to the podium here. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, President Aguinobi. I'd like to welcome you all to Mansfield, and I hope before you leave town today you have a chance to explore the town a little. It's a beautiful day to do that. But particularly, I'd like to invite you to explore Mansfield downtown, which is the result of a multi-year collaboration between the university and the community. We would not be the town we are today without this collaboration. It has been extraordinarily important and extraordinarily valuable. So I'd also like to thank everybody who had anything to do with the cybersecurity legislation. Municipalities have been particularly aware of the problems with ransomware in particular, because the many communities have been struck with demands for ransom that was less than the cost of recovering the documents themselves. So it made financial sense to pay the ransomers, and it's very clear that there's a lot of work to be done. This bill is a beginning, but there's a lot more that has to be done, and we really hope that the UConn Center will assist not only Mansfield, but many communities and other businesses in fighting these things. So I'd like to welcome you to Mansfield and to thank you all for being here and encourage you to spend some time in our town. Thank you. And I'd like to introduce from CBIA, Eric Getty.
So, good morning. I'd first like to thank the Lamont administration, the Commerce Committee chairs, Senator Joan Hartley and Representative Caroline Simmons, and committee ranking members Senator Henry Martin and Representative William Buckby for supporting this important and timely act. Based on a 2018 CBIA survey, nearly 25% of Connecticut businesses reported they had experienced a data breach or cyber attack in the previous 2 years. 90% of those were small businesses with less than 100 employees. Attacks on companies of all sizes have only increased in the ensuing years. Investing in cybersecurity is an expensive decision that requires a company to dedicate time, staffing, and financial resources to be successful, a heavy lift for many smaller businesses who often do not have the tools to bolster their defenses. This act creates incentives for adopting recognized standards, providing a straightforward return on investment through the prohibition on punitive damages, and is critical for protecting our most vulnerable industries and small businesses from the increasing threat of cyber attacks. So thank you very much, and now I'd like to introduce my friend and colleague, Beatriz Gutierrez, President and CEO of CONSTEP.
So thank you, Eric, and thank you to everyone that has worked so hard on getting this legislation forward. As part of the NIST MEP, which for some of you may be new, the National Institute of Standards and Technology MEP Manufacturing Extension Partnership, which ComStat is part of. And we're really, really excited that this legislation is in place. Breaches of cybersecurity are devastating for a small business and for a small manufacturing in particular. It put at risk the resources, and it put our defense also at risk, because in Connecticut, as we all know, our supply chain, it is very, very connected to defense. So as part of our efforts from ComStat, we see it as our mission to support these small manufacturers in getting the tools they need to really defend themselves up against these cyber threats. The standards that this legislation is based on are framed around NIST-directed standards, which allows us to provide our manufacturers in Connecticut with a very strong ways of defense. The main thing that is so important for us and made us so excited to participate with CBIA on this and with our legislator on this particular bill is the idea that we are removing the punitive part of it. We are encouraging manufacturers and other small business to learn, to get ready, and we are providing the tools to help them get ready. So we want them, it is expensive to get ready, but we want them to use the resources on being prepared for a cyber attack and not be concerned about the punitive area of defending themselves on when they have done the right thing. So we see it as a very positive collaboration. We feel it's going to strengthen our ecosystem in the state, and we are very excited to be part of this. Thank you very much. And now I want to introduce Lauren Mitchell from UConn, our partner on this particular effort. Thank you.
Good morning. I'd like to start with a number, $6 trillion. That's the cost of cybersecurity breaches worldwide. It's projected to grow to $10.5 trillion by 2025. If we focus just on US healthcare, their losses to ransomware in 2020 were numbering $21 billion, 18 million records lost, 5 times growth year over year, and expected to double again next year. Data losses affect tons of sectors, healthcare, financial sector, as well as the retail sector. But it also affects the public. Personally identifiable information that gets lost creates problem for all of us. That includes your social security number, all forms of identification, bank records, health records. We need to get better at this. We need to have better accountability, we need to have better disclosures. But more importantly, we need to have in place proactive measures that help organizations protect us. Incentivize organizations to do the right thing. Invest in cyber defenses, adopt standards, best practices, and really implement protective measures for a broad swath of personally identifiable information. They should adopt continuous improvement as well to track the standards as they evolve and remain accountable all the way through. The kind of industry partnership that we enjoy at UConn with companies like Comcast and Synchrony certainly help to make our digital world a safer place. But that's not sufficient. Legislation is a cornerstone to incentivize organizations, companies to do the right thing. And thanks to this effort, to this legislation that's coming through, this is something that can happen. So we should be thankful for the legislature and the Office of Governor Lamont for making this a reality for us. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Mark Raymond, CIO, for the statement. Thank you.
Thank you, Laurent, and thank you for having me here today on this really important day. It's beautiful to be back at UConn, my alma mater, where my technology journey started. As someone in the state that's responsible for the technology that we have in place, I have a unique perspective and only a few sleepless nights, but there are some along with that. You know, as we emerge from this pandemic, well, there's a couple of things that are clear, right? One is that the expectations around that we have from our citizens and residents and businesses have changed. And the other is the reality of the environment that we're working in is very different. The pandemic has forced many kinds of changes. So for example, we have direct evidence that when we provide technology in the right way, in the ways that people will consume it, that our residents have the desire, have the ability, and have the preference to interact with us digitally in an online way. Our business portal that we created at business.ct.gov, some of the online transactions we put online with the Department of Motor Vehicles, even our enterprise chatbot where we make our government more accessible are all direct evidence of that. As we've heard from our earlier speakers, we also know that the cybersecurity landscape has also changed dramatically during that period of time, both in the frequency and the scale of events that we are all too familiar with. And so that, I think, sets the context for today. And today marks an important next step on the road to becoming an all-digital government. Under Governor Lamont's leadership, we have been consolidating our technology resources in the state in order to allow us to become more focused on deep skills like cybersecurity, to protect our agencies in better ways than we have been previously, and to be more flexible in how we go about doing that. At the same time, we put more and more services online for our constituents every day to help them in their journey and provide them access to the services they need when they need them. What brings all of this together is the context of trust. Our businesses, our residents will only use the services that we provide if they trust those services and they trust us as a government. Our efficiency and the uptake of the services that we provide are solely reliant on how well we provide cybersecurity. And so I think that provides an understanding of why cybersecurity is so important to me and so important to us as a government. We've been fortunate to hire our state's first Chief Information Security Officer, Jeff Brown, in the middle of the pandemic to help with this change. Jeff is an accomplished cybersecurity professional that comes to us from the deep roots in the financial service industry and also is an accomplished author. For me, it's been a really pleasure to work with Jeff, and I welcome him to make his remarks.
Thank you so much, Mark. Look, today I think we're doing several important steps, and Connecticut is showing a great amount of leadership towards cybersecurity issues. One, obviously, is passing this bill that incentivizes the right behavior as opposed to punishing the victims, which tends to be the way that things have been done in the past. That kind of behavior needs to change. Now we really are trying to encourage the right behavior, incentivize the right behavior, we've sought a rather large capital investment into the IT under the executive branch of the governorship. So really getting the right people together, pulling the right resources, working together. Cybersecurity now more than ever is a collaborative sport. This isn't something that needs to be done in isolation anymore. We will be leaning very heavily on our state partners, our federal partners, as well as working closely with municipalities and some of the federal agencies. All of these things is still not enough. Getting the right people together, getting the funding and the resources for the programming, and then really incentivizing the right behavior. These three things are working together in tandem, and I think it takes amazing steps forward for the state today. I'm very proud to be here, and I think we're going to be making some incredible progress as our digital footprint increases with digital government. We will be taking a lot of steps to make sure that that footprint stays safe. And with that, I'll turn it over to the Lieutenant Governor.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with everybody. I think we learned over the past year that our digital spaces are essential to our work, our education, our lives, and our economy. And keeping cyberspace safe is really the equivalent of investing in locks and alarms in the past for your businesses and your home. And so this bill provides the right safeguards and incentives to do that. If you look at some of the damage that breaches have caused, think back to 2017 when 136 million people's private information was stolen during the Equifax breach. So this bill is an important step. It's a collaboration between business and government. I want to thank the governor for his leadership on this important issue and for his determination to bring our state into the 21st century. Now, Mayor Moran, you mentioned spending time in Mansfield. We hope you'll spend money while you're here as well. And all this talk about security and technology makes me hungry. So I'm going to be celebrating National Ice Cream Day at the Dairy Bar in a little bit. So if you want to join me, you're welcome. And now it's my pleasure to bring up our great governor, Ned Lamont.
Hey, well, thank you, Susan. And look, as Jeff said, we're going to talk a lot about technology, but it really starts with people. And Mark, I appreciate your taking the lead as we move the state forward in the use of IT and how that is going to make for a better customer experience for people and transform our government. Jeff, I appreciate you being on board. We got to do this safely. And we are under attack every day, and that's what we got to talk about. I want to say a personal thanks to my friend Josh Jabal. He runs DAS, Department of Administrative Services. Usually we've had people in that job with a long political pedigree, and Josh spent a lot of time at IBM, so it's a different skill set, and I think you see that reflected in some of our priorities there. We couldn't have done anything without our friends in the legislature. I see Caroline Simmons, Representative Simmons, who leads the Commerce Committee, for which we need their strong support. I see Senator May Flexer. She's been quite busy, and I appreciate everything you're doing here and support for an institution like this, May. The Innovation Partnership is remarkable, and it's one of the things that keeps our ecosystem ahead of the curve, ahead of our competition. You see the partnership with Eversource and Synchrony and Comcast and UTC Aerospace Systems. If you have an opportunity to walk around this amazing building, you'll see the, one of less than a half a dozen amazing electron microscopes that give you a level of precision that our manufacturing otherwise wouldn't be able to get. Gives you a perspective on what is going on. And by the way, vibrations don't work, I was being pointed out. That's why it's on a pedestal that goes down 60 feet into the ground. So this electron microscope is unique in terms of what it does. I can tell you that after the election 2.5 years ago, if you wanted to know what I thought about risks hitting the state, I come out of an IT background, so I really thought it was the risk of a cyber attack and what that could mean to Eversource, what that could mean to our electric grid, that could mean to theft of ID. As Mark said, what that means in terms of trust. I mean, the business world works on a position of trust. Government particularly works with trust. And if that trust is breached due to a cyber hack, it really makes our life very complicated. So one of the first things I did was I called my fellow governors, because they hadn't really talked to each other all that much in years past, and I said, look, we have some risks that transcend our borders, and one of them is cyber. And one of the very first models we did was we were over at the Emergency Operations Center, people down there around the table. You got the big screens, Eversource and UI. Hopefully you're there as well as needed. And it was a cyber attack on a natural gas pipeline right across the border in Massachusetts. So we're there in Massachusetts. And we're able to model out how that would impact. What would be most at risk? What that mean in terms of our fresh water? What that would mean in terms of our wastewater? What that could mean in terms of nursing homes and hospitals is with the loss of power. And we saw very quickly that as our world gets increasingly interconnected, the threat brought by cyber expands exponentially. Good thing we got to know the fellow governors, Andy, when we did, because we found out it was a different type of virus that hit us, and we worked together very closely when it came to COVID as well. All right, so that said, what are we doing? I think about this in layman's terms, and the first thing you got to do is not let the bad guys in your house. And one of the first things we've done, and Mark has taken the lead on, is training. Training of all of our 40,000 state employees, many of whom are online every day. And if there's an unidentified email, don't open that up. It's a fish. You got to watch out. And I'm hearing here at UConn as well, Andy, you're doing the same thing. So don't open the door. Number two, what we're doing is we're finding those cyber criminals, wherever they may be, they're knocking on our doors, and they're trying to find that open window. And it's like an electronic burglar, and they're trying to break in, and they're doing this faster and faster and faster, given them the quantum physics out there. And we're responding faster and faster and faster. And what Josh and Mark have been able to do is we take our IT systems. A lot of them are sort of older legacy systems built in the 90s. A lot of leaks in there. We're upgrading them. We're strengthening them, moving more and more of our material to the cloud. It allows us to work with some of our national vendors so that when there are hits, it may not just be a hit on a system in Connecticut. It also may be happening in Boston and Maryland and somewhere else. We can collect that information and be able to respond from a broader perspective. I've been working very closely with the Governors Association, because I come out of IT. They made me co-chairman of the program to deal with pandemics. I don't know what I do about that, but also to deal about cyber. And we've just had a meeting with the Department of Homeland Security. They've got some catching up to do as well. But what they are promising us is best practices. And Jeff, you probably know who the CISO representative is from the federal government. So, because when you get hit, it's usually not unique to your building or even not unique to your state, but what we have to do broadly. And we're learning from them in terms of best practices going forward so that we can take and learn from that as well. And that takes us back to this legislation. Let's start with what we can do. And let's start in keeping our businesses safe. Look, our municipalities are the ones that most likely to get hit, a little more vulnerable. We've seen that. And sometimes it's our small businesses most likely to get hit. And one of the things we wanted to do with this legislation is not punish people, but give you the incentives and the guidance you need to keep your IT system safe. And saying if you follow these protocols and follow these rules, you're not subject to litigation. So it's an incentive program that we can all work together. and then we build out from there. And again, I want to thank our friends in the legislature, IT, equipment, computers, sometimes not always the most popular thing to do, but it's the most important thing we can do. And this is a testament to what we're doing to keep you safe. We have a battle on a lot of different fronts as a country and as a state, and this is one more way that we're going to keep us safe. Let's sign the bill.
Representative Simmons, thank you so much for your support. Senator Flexer, we got a pen over here for you. Mr. President, thank you so much and good luck with your tenure. Thank you.
We're on a tight budget. No more of those quill pens.
She really likes them. She really likes that. Mayor, thank you. Mayor, thank you so much for your collaboration. We appreciate it. All right. And where's her? There you are. Thank you so much. And let's see. Thank you so much to both of you. Appreciate it. And I think we got the last one. So keep signing, guys. All right.
You're doing a lot on this one.
All right, we'll give one to PBIA, and we'll give the last one to Representative. There you go. All right. Okay.
With the baby in the pandemic, the first comes a lot later.
Yeah, we have a DHS representative.
Oh, they did, yeah.